at a family dinner after he tried to hurt my cat. So I, 17F, live with my mom and stepdad, Dave, 38M. Dave's never liked me much and he hates my cat, Mr. Whiskers. He's always trying to get rid of him, and I've caught him kicking or hitting Mr. Whiskers when he thinks no one's watching. One day, I actually saw him hurting my cat. I freaked out and ran to our neighbor, Mr. Johnson, who was a good friend of my biological dad. I told him that Dave was trying to kill my cat. Mr. Johnson was furious and was about to confront Dave, but decided to call the cops instead. When the cops showed up, Dave tried to lie his way out of it, but he was obviously scared. The cops gave him a warning and he backed off. Fast forward to a family dinner at my mom's side. They were talking about cops and Dave tried to act all tough, like he's never been scared of anything. I couldn't resist, so I blurted out, "Yeah, you almost shit your pants when Mr. Johnson called the cops on you." The room went dead silent, and Dave's face turned red. He didn't say a word for the rest of the night. Now, my mom's mad at me for causing drama, but honestly, I think he deserved it.
Am I the a-hole for meowing with my cat? I have a very vocal cat, an 8-year-old furball who loves to meow a lot. It's like he's got his own language, and he fully expects me to understand and respond. If I don't, he gets visibly stressed, maybe even a bit insulted. So we've developed this routine where we chat with each other, meowing back and forth. It might sound odd to some, but it's our thing. And honestly, I think he really enjoys it. But here's the problem. My partner absolutely hates it. They find the meowing unbearable and have asked me to either teach the cat to stop or at the very least, ignore him when he meows at me. To me, though, ignoring my cat feels like ignoring a friend who's trying to talk to me. It just doesn't sit right with me. My partner thinks I'm the a-hole for not stopping, claiming it's a small effort to make for their comfort. So, am I the a-hole for continuing to meow with my cat, even though it annoys my partner? Or is it okay to keep our little routine going? Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my half-sister's treatment? When I was 25, we discovered my father had been cheating on my mother for years, resulting in a 7-year-old daughter with his mistress. My world shattered, and our once happy family fell apart. After my parents divorced, my mother took most of the assets due to their prenup, and she never spoke to my father again. She allowed me to maintain a relationship with him, which I did out of exhaustion from carrying so much anger. However, I wanted nothing to do with his mistress or my half-sister. Last year, my mother passed away and left me everything: her money, real estate, and business. While I'm now financially comfortable, my father struggles after poor business decisions. Recently, my half-sister was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, and my father asked me to help with the mounting medical bills. I don't want to use my mother's hard-earned money to pay for the child of the woman who destroyed her life. It feels wrong, even though my half-sister isn't to blame. My father insists I should help, asking if I could live with myself if she didn't survive due to lack of funds. But I feel her parents should handle this, not me. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for lying about my biggest fear on a quiz show and winning a car? Ever wondered if a little white lie could lead to winning a car and making others lose? A few years ago, I was on a local quiz show on our small island near the UK. The show had physical, psychological, and problem-solving challenges. I breezed through the physical and math challenges, but the psychological part was where things got tricky. We had to list our top 5 fears, but I listed things I wasn't scared of: spiders, cockroaches, snakes, scorpions, and woodlice. My real fear was something much less common, so I knew I'd fail if faced with it. When I entered the challenge, the room was filled with cockroaches. I had to sift through them to find clues. It was gross, but I got through it and advanced while the others failed. I ended up winning a car, which I didn't need, so I sold it for a nice profit and bought myself a better one. When I shared this story with my family, they were split. Some say I was unethical, while others think the other contestants should have listed their real fears. Was I wrong for lying about my fears to win? What do you think?
Am I the a-hole for starting my wedding ceremony before my mom showed up? The day of the wedding started out as they normally do. I, bride, was inside getting ready and final touches were being made outside. After I was almost ready by noon, my mom had to run back to the hotel 20 minutes away to change and come back with my grandma and family friend. The invitation says ceremony at 2. As per usual, we were a little late starting, but nothing crazy. Next thing I know, I'm walking myself down the aisle with no mom, grandma, or family friend in sight. The ceremony continues and it's over before we know it. Still nothing. After 45 minutes, finally they pull up. Then I proceed to go and tell them it's over and that they missed it, and that too meant too. My mother immediately became hostile and proceeded to blame the bakery for not having buns ready, then said they were stopped by a train. And my personal favorite was, "It's your fault you didn't call or text to see where we are." Excuse me. Again, the invitation said 2. Also note the officiant also had another wedding to get to after mine, so it was a tight schedule. So am I the asshole for not holding up my ceremony? Side note, I found out the real reason why they were late. She wasn't done getting herself ready, therefore holding up everyone. But she is mad at me because it's my fault. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to use my inheritance to build a home for my husband's sisters on our farm? My husband and I have been married for 31 years. We bought his parents' farm and paid it off, then built our forever home on it. We've also taken care of his parents and his Down syndrome sister when no one else in his family would step up, even though we still had young kids at home. Now, his sisters, who have always asked for help, expect us to build them a house on our farm with the money I inherited from my parents. My husband wants to do it so they won't have to pay rent, and he even suggested we cover their property taxes and insurance since they can't afford it. But why should my parents' hard-earned money go to supporting his lazy sisters? I want to use my inheritance for our kid's future, not to build a house for his family, who I feel is taking advantage of us. Honestly, I'm even considering using the money to start a new life on my own. So am I the a-hole for refusing to spend my inheritance on his family's needs? Am I the a-hole for refusing to wear a skimpy maid outfit to an exclusive party my friend's new boyfriend invited us to? I, 22F, live with my friend, 22F, who recently started dating a guy from a wealthy family. He's hosting a party and invited us both, but he sent a photo of the outfits, skimpy maid costumes. I was immediately uncomfortable and told my friend I wouldn't wear that to a party with strangers. At first, she thought I was joking, but when she realized I was serious, she got upset. She insists it's just a quirky rich people thing and that I'm being prudish. I explained that it feels humiliating and disrespectful, especially since I don't know him well. I refused to attend the party and said I'd be avoiding her boyfriend in the future. This led to a huge argument. She's now calling me boring and a killjoy, saying I'm ruining things for her. To make matters worse, the guy even offered to pay me to wear the costume, which only increased my frustration. I'm feeling guilty for standing up for my boundaries, even though I believe I have every right to. Am I the a-hole for refusing to participate?
Am I the a-hole for not paying for my daughter's wedding because she invited my brother and his family? I'm a 46-year-old man, and my brother, who is 48, had an affair with my girlfriend when I was 20. I was devastated and cut him out of my life. My family didn't support my decision, so I told them I would not be around if he was invited. My daughter is getting married next spring, and in our culture, both parents pay for the wedding. She recently informed me that she plans to invite my brother and his family. He married my ex. She's built a relationship with them over the past 4 years, and even wants her cousin from my brother to be a flower girl. I was furious and told her if my brother is invited, I won't contribute financially. She got angry, saying it's time to move on, and accused me of making her wedding about myself. I told her I might not even attend, which made her cry. My ex-wife and parents are upset with me, and my girlfriend thinks I should reconsider and apologize. She believes my decision will ruin my relationship with my daughter. Am I the a-hole for sticking to my boundaries?
Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to my fiancé? My sister Ella, 31F, is getting married in 2 weeks, and we've always been close despite our differences. I'm more introverted, while she's the life of the party, but everything changed when she crossed a line that I can't ignore. I've been engaged to Mark, 29 million, for a year. He's kind, supportive, and my family always seemed to like him. But about a month ago, Ella asked Mark to meet her for coffee, supposedly to pick out a wedding gift for me. When Mark came home, he was unusually quiet. After I pressed him, he revealed that Ella spent the entire time trying to convince him to break off our engagement. She called me boring and not ambitious enough, even suggesting he could do better. When I confronted Ella, she didn't deny it. Instead, she claimed she was just looking out for Mark and doubled down, saying if I was confident in our relationship, I wouldn't be upset. No apology, just more hurtful comments. I left her house in tears. Since then, I've barely spoken to her. My parents know what happened and agree she was wrong, but they're begging me to still attend the wedding to avoid a family rift. But I'm torn. I feel betrayed and don't know if I can just pretend everything's fine on her big day. So, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's wedding?
Am I the a-hole for revealing I paid for my own sports training? I'm passionate about a sport that requires a monthly fee for training. My late father had set aside some money for my future, but my stepfather made it clear that he didn't want to use that fund for my training. Instead, he insisted that if I wanted to continue, I'd need to pay for it myself. Determined not to let this obstacle stop me, I took on a job at a local pizza place. It was tough work, but I was committed to earning the money for my training. My hard work paid off. I not only managed to cover the fees, but also excelled in my sport, eventually winning a major competition. At a recent family gathering, the conversation turned to my recent competition victory. Someone asked my stepfather about how much he had invested in my training. Without thinking, I answered, "Actually, I paid for all of it myself." My stepfather was furious and immediately started yelling, accusing me of undermining him and causing a scene. My mom, who was already stressed from the tension, became angry too, and the situation turned into a dramatic argument. My stepfather's reaction was intense, and my mom was upset because the entire scene was creating unnecessary drama. She felt I should have kept quiet to avoid the conflict. I didn't intend to cause a scene or embarrass anyone. I just wanted to be honest about how I funded my training. I was simply correcting the misinformation. So, am I the a-hole for being truthful about paying for my own sports training and not letting my stepfather take credit for my achievements, even though it led to a big family argument?
Am I the a-hole for leaving my party for beating cancer? 35 am a very private person, no social media, and I don't like being the center of attention. When I was diagnosed with a highly curable form of skin cancer, I wasn't worried since the fatality rate was incredibly low. I told my wife, 32, who was very upset, but I didn't want to tell our kids, 5, 7. My wife reluctantly agreed. A week later, I found out my wife had posted about my cancer on Facebook, which upset me because I thought we agreed to keep it private. She used the excuse, "You didn't say I couldn't post it, just not to tell the kids." I was frustrated but moved on after she took it down. Thankfully, I went into remission quickly, and my doctor told me I was essentially cured. My wife was overjoyed, but I wanted to quietly move forward and not make a big deal about it. Then, last weekend, I came home to a surprise party celebrating my remission. I was shocked and uncomfortable since my wife knows I hate being the center of attention, and we've discussed this before. I lied, saying I had work to do, grabbed some files, and left the party. My wife was upset, and we've been cold toward each other all week. My brother thinks I'm TA for how I handled it. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to celebrate my remission?
Am I the a-hole for taking my neighbor's cat inside during a storm and not returning it right away? A few weeks ago, there was a huge storm with heavy rain and strong winds. My neighbor's outdoor cat was sitting on my porch, soaked and shivering. I've seen the cat around before and it seemed distressed, so I brought it inside. I dried it off, gave it some food, and let it stay for the night since the storm kept raging. By the morning, the storm had cleared up, but the cat was cozy on my couch. I didn't want to wake my neighbors too early, so I figured I'd return it later in the day. Around noon, my neighbor knocked on my door, upset, demanding to know why I didn't bring the cat back right away. They said it's used to being outside and I shouldn't have taken it in without asking. I explained that I was just trying to help, but they didn't seem to care and took the cat back, clearly annoyed. Now things are really awkward between us, and I'm wondering if I did the wrong thing. Am I the a-hole for keeping their cat overnight during a storm instead of returning it right away?
Am I the a-hole for refusing to move out even though my roommate is 7 months pregnant? Last week, my roommate Becca found out she is not only pregnant, but 7 months along. She texted me that we had to talk today, and I had assumed she would be moving out soon for more space when the baby comes. Instead, she told me I have to move out to make space for the nursery and her baby daddy to move in. I'm on a terrible salary and cannot afford anywhere else to live. Plus, she wants me to move out right now so she can prepare for the baby. Even if I wanted to move out now, the apartment rentals in my area are either too expensive or well below living standards, so I don't want to move. She went absolutely crazy the moment I told her I wouldn't move out, because I'm ruining her motherhood experience by not letting her family live together. I pay rent here and my name's on the lease until at least the end of the year. I'm not going to pull out of the lease, and I told her that if she wants her little family together, that she should move and I'll find someone to half the cheap rent with. That made her start crying and saying how I just want to ruin her life to the point her baby daddy had to console her and tell me to get out of their way already. I've not heard her stop crying since, but I think I'm totally valid that I don't want to leave. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to move out?
Am I the a-hole for not letting my dad copy my brother's letter to me so my half-siblings can think he wrote to them too? My older brother Jamie passed away 7 months ago. He was 20. Before he died, he wrote a letter to me and another to our dad. Jamie's letter to me expressed love and an apology for leaving, wishing me a good life. His letter to dad was very different. It called dad out for cheating on our mom, said Jamie was disgusted by him, and didn't want him to fake grieve like he did when mom died. He didn't tell dad he was sick, as he thought dad didn't deserve the chance to say goodbye. I know this because dad shared it with me and asked if I felt the same, which I do. Dad had more kids with his wife, the affair partner. My half-sisters, 11 and 10, and half-brother, 8. I'm 17. My brother distanced himself from them, and I don't feel a strong bond either. Now that Jamie is gone, I feel like I lost my only real sibling. Dad knows I have a letter from Jamie, but Jamie didn't write to our half-siblings. Now, Dad wants to edit my letter, making it look like it was meant for all of us, so the younger kids won't feel unloved by Jamie. He says it would ease their pain, and wants me to pretend the letter was never just mine. I refused, and Dad got angry, accusing me of being heartless and not caring about my siblings after living with them for so long. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband's family that I speak their language? My husband Peter, 29, and I, 27, have been married for 3 years, with 1 child and another on the way. I'm from Canada, he's from Germany. We moved to Hanover for a better life. After our move, we often visited his family. This was the second time I had met them, the first being at our wedding. I started noticing they spoke about me in German, making rude comments about my appearance and criticizing my choices, including remarks about my pregnant belly. I spoke to my husband, and he promised to address it. For a while, things improved. I gave birth to our daughter Lilith, a name with family significance. Peter's family was upset about the name. We visited for my mother-in-law's birthday, and I heard my sister-in-law call me a fat, ugly, hokey addict in German. I finally confronted them in German, revealing I had understood them all along. The table erupted and they blamed me. We left and haven't spoken since. So, am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for putting dinner away and playing video games after my girlfriend came home drunk? My girlfriend, 26, and I, 29, have lived together for 6 months. I've been busy with work, so I was looking forward to a nice dinner with her, something we'd planned all weekend. She had brunch with friends at 11 a.m., and I expected her back in time for the 6:30 dinner. Instead, brunch turned into an all-day bar-hopping event. She kept texting me, saying she'd be home for dinner, but I could tell she was drunk. I started making pasta around 5 p.m. At 5:30, I saw on her Snapchat that she was doing shots at a different bar. By 6:30, she still wasn't home and had moved to another bar. Annoyed, I ate alone, put the food away, and started playing PlayStation with my friends. She came home around 7:15 p.m., clearly drunk, and asked about dinner. I told her it was in the fridge since she was late. She gave a half-hearted apology, laughing it off with, "You never know what to expect when the girl gang goes to brunch." I said it was fine, but mentioned I had other plans now. She called me rude and went to bed. Now she's being passive-aggressive. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for laughing at my crying ex-husband and calling his suffering karma? My ex-husband divorced me 3 years ago because I refused to have kids. When we got married, we agreed not to have children. I never wanted them, and he said he wasn't interested either. 4 years into our marriage, he changed his mind and decided to leave me because I wouldn't go back on our agreement. I was ready to be married for life and didn't believe in divorce, but I guess he didn't love me enough if he chose the idea of kids over me. Right after the divorce, he remarried almost instantly, got his new wife pregnant, and now they have 2 kids. In the 3 years since, I finished my higher education and accepted a high-paying healthcare job. Life has been good, and I've reached a point where I'm ready to settle down again. Yesterday morning, my ex showed up at my doorstep in tears. I let him in, thinking something awful must have happened. He started crying about how miserable his life is now. He said he hates his 2 kids, one of whom is disabled and maybe autistic, draining all his money. He complained about his wife gaining weight after kids, not wanting to be intimate, and constantly yelling at him. He wants a divorce and regrets leaving me, even asking if I would take him back. I couldn't help but laugh. The whole situation was so pitiful and his audacity was astounding. I told him that with 2 kids to support and his lack of loyalty, he's not a catch anymore. And maybe this was karma for divorcing me. He got angry, saying he expected me to be more supportive or at least turn him down nicely. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for breaking a man's nose because he apparently didn't know what stop means? IF21 went to my local grocery store the other day to get 1 to 2 items and then go home. As I'm grabbing said items, they were on different aisles. I see a man, 45 to 55, following me quite closely. You may say, oh, maybe it's just a weird coincidence. He wanted something on that aisle. Number. He didn't pick up or look at anything, didn't even have a cart. A little more context, I was wearing a dress. Not ridiculously short, but it was short because it's 90 degrees outside. Anyways, I got uncomfortable and just went and checked out. Didn't see the man until I was almost to my car. He walks up and tries to start making awkward small talk. How old I am. The fact that my license plate is a different state than the one I was in, where I was coming from, if I have a boyfriend. I told him I wasn't interested and asked him to please leave me alone. He didn't and got closer to me. I have a very big IK about people boxing me into small spaces. Trauma. And so I said quite loudly, please back away from me. I don't like this. He laughed and basically said, oh, she's upset, what a sweetheart, and is now 3 inches away from me. So I panicked and slammed the palm of my hand into his nose, which broke it. He began screaming at me, but I was having a panic attack and just got into my car and left. I told some friends about it, and some say I'm at AH because I could have just ducked away, and some say that that's a completely normal response for someone who has trauma. So, am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for laughing? When my sister-in-law DNA tested my daughter, I'm a 30-year-old dad to a 6-year-old girl named Lily, who I adopted after her parents, my close friends, tragically passed away. I was never romantically involved with her mother, but we were childhood friends. Her parents died in a workplace shooting when Lily was just 3 months old, leaving her without any next of kin. I stepped in to adopt her because I didn't want her growing up in foster care. Lily knows she's adopted and that her parents were killed by a bad man. Most people assume she's my biological daughter, but I don't correct them since it feels unnecessary. Here's where things get wild. My brother's fiancée, who we'll call sister-in-law, recently saw a photo of me with Lily's biological parents and got suspicious. Without asking anyone, she took it upon herself to DNA test my daughter using my brother's DNA. When the results came back showing they weren't related, she came at me, waving the results in my face and accusing me of raising an affair baby. She did this in front of Lily, mind you. I just stared at her for a second before I burst out laughing. I explained to her that adoption is a thing, and I knew Lily wasn't my biological daughter. She turned beet red and stormed off. Now my brother is mad at me for embarrassing her, claiming she was just trying to do the right thing. But seriously, what was her endgame? Was she hoping I'd abandon my daughter or something?